Bigger than that concern, though, is the fact that Elon Musk has also reportedly been in frequent communication with Putin and the Kremlin since late 2022. The Wall Street Journal reported that the discussions, confirmed by several current and former U.S. and European and Russian officials, touch on personal topics, business, and geopolitical tensions. And now Elon Musk is in the room, literally on the call, in the president's ear. Ukrainian officials told the Washington Post today that they came away from the call with the assumption that Elon Musk was going to join additional calls between the president-elect and world leaders as U.S. allies and adversaries scramble to prepare for a change of U.S. leadership following this week's election. To be clear, the people usually on those bilateral calls between leaders are typically the Secretary of State, diplomats, ambassadors, not private citizens with literally zero experience in diplomacy. It is just an unbelievable amount of access and influence for a private citizen. And again, let's be clear, Elon Musk bought that influence. Musk used his position as the richest man in the world to almost single-handedly fund a $175 million effort to elect Donald Trump. That included paying canvassers to knock on 11 million doors in battleground states, spending $30 million in direct mail advertisements, $22 million in digital advertisement. Not to mention the unquantifiable in-kind donation that Musk made when he bought Twitter, one of the most important social media forums on the internet, and turned it into a pro-Trump conspiracy theory echo chamber. We have had billionaire problems in our politics for a long time, but Elon Musk has taken that problem to a level we have never seen before. And now it looks like he will play a major role in actually running the next Trump administration.
How much do you think we can rip out of this wasted $6.5 trillion Harris-Biden budget?
Well, I think we can do at least $2 trillion.
Yeah!
Yes.
$2 trillion.
Your money is being wasted, and the Department of Government Efficiency is going to fix that. America's just not just going to be great. America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing.
He's so happy. Probably because Musk is already getting a major return on his investment. The day after the election, Musk's net worth skyrocketed by approximately $20 billion. Again, that is billion with a B. That's because with Trump in office, lots of people are making the bet that everything Elon Musk owns, from Tesla to SpaceX to Twitter, lots of investors are making the bet that all of those companies are going to do gangbusters under the second Trump administration. And there is very good reason to think that. As the New York Times puts it this week, the 6 companies that Mr. Musk oversees are deeply entangled with federal agencies. They make billions off contracts to launch rockets, build satellites, and provide space-based communication services. Tesla makes hundreds of millions more from emissions trading credits created by federal law. Before Donald J. Trump was reelected, Musk had come to him with a request for Trump's presidential transition. Musk wanted Trump to hire some employees from his rocket company, SpaceX, to be top government officials, including officials at the Defense Department. That request would seed SpaceX employees into an agency that, just happens to be one of its biggest customers. There is a word for a government like this. It is a kleptocracy. Elon Musk has bought himself an unbelievable amount of influence in the U.S. government that will in turn enrich him even more. And the fact that Musk was on Trump's call with Zelensky shows that the kleptocracy here isn't just a domestic one, but a global one. Let me show you what I mean. This is again from the great Wall Street Journal reporting on Musk's calls with Putin and the Kremlin. At one point, Putin asked Musk to avoid activating his Starlink satellite internet service over Taiwan as a favor to Chinese leader Xi Jinping, whom Russia was increasingly relying on for trade and to get around sanctions. So just to be clear here, that's Putin asking Musk for a favor on behalf of Xi Jinping so that China will keep helping Russia, a sort of I scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of proposal. Did Elon Musk comply? Well, while Starlink's parent company says that it is because of Taiwanese ownership requirements, the fact is Starlink is still not available in Taiwan.
Oh,
Let me tell you, we have a new star. A star is born, Elon. He's a character, he's a special guy, he's a super genius. We have to protect our geniuses. We don't have that many of them. We have to protect our super geniuses.
Joining me now are Michael Weiss, an investigative journalist who has covered the wars in Syria and Ukraine and has published widely on Russian espionage and disinformation, and Teddy Schleifer, a reporter for the New York Times, who's been covering campaign finance and focusing on billionaires and their influence in American politics. A beat with a lot to cover. Guys, thank you both for being here tonight. Michael, let me first start with you, just in terms of this access that, first of all, I mean, on some level, does it come as any surprise? But the audacity of having Elon Musk listening in on these phone calls between world leaders as Trump navigates his transition is profoundly alarming. In a moment when nothing should alarm, right. This is extraordinarily alarming. What do you make of it? What is your initial thought?
You use the word kleptocracy, but there's a step before that. Oligarchy.
Yeah.
And if anybody has an understanding of the way oligarchy works, it's Vladimir Putin, right? I mean, when he took power in 2000, the first thing he did was he made a deal with the billionaires. If you support me, if you give me access to your national news outlets, your media companies, if you act as plenipotentiaries of my regime and do the bidding of the Russian Federation, you get to keep all the money you want with the inevitable kickbacks to the boss, right? Those who defied him wound up in exile or in the gulag, dead under mysterious circumstances. So I think what we're seeing here is the beginning of a kind of creeping American oligarchy. I mean, you mentioned Musk is on the call with Putin. He was also reportedly, according to Turkish media, on a call with Erdogan. So these are authoritarians who understand that, you know, business is kind of what makes the world go round, and in order to get your political power in place, in order to consolidate your regime, you need to bring the businessmen to heel. And look, I mean, Trump likes guys like Musk, right? He's powerful, he's megalomaniacal, he's a little bit eccentric. He now owns the most influential social media app, which gives him enormous control of the flow of information.
And helped Trump enormously in his bid for president.
Exactly. And look, I have to say, I mean, it's a bit of a banality to point out that Putin is a former KGB case officer. But in the Soviet Union, the KGB had a category of somebody that they referred to as the confidential contact. This wasn't somebody to be recruited as an agent, but it was somebody to be cultivated as a source. You keep in constant communication with them. Why? Because they come from areas with privileged information, politics, journalism, big business. They tell you things that are of benefit to Moscow, and in exchange, what do? Well, you keep them on the hook by flattering their ego, making them feel important, making them feel like secret sharers to information. You know, there's a big peace treaty coming up, don't tell anyone, that kind of thing. Putin, a guy like Musk is cream cheese in the hands of a guy like Vladimir Putin, right? He's the richest man in the world. He loves rocket ships and satellites. He's got top secret U.S. clearance. He's a bit weird. I mean, he named one of his kids after something that sounds like a George Lucas student film, for Christ's sakes. And he's deeply impressionable.
Yes, you see that in his behavior at the Trump rallies.
Exactly.
He loves the adoration. His ego is easily stroked.
Yeah.
Teddy, just in terms of Musk's ambitions here, clearly this is helping his bottom line, right? His net worth goes up, shoots up by $20 billion this week. But it also seems like he's, to Michael's point, very interested in geopolitics. This is something that you've reported in the New York Times. You know, the extension of his interest goes well past just Tesla and rockets. He wants to be a mocker on the world stage, it sounds like.
Sure. And next week, when Javier Milei of Argentina comes to Mar-a-Lago, he's actually meeting not only with Trump, but with Elon Musk as well. So we have another foreign meeting that Elon is going to be sitting in on. Look, it's not obviously unprecedented for business leaders, especially, you know, given that Elon very well might have a formal role in the transition, to help out with whatever happens on a transition, right? I mean, I think what is unique here is it almost feels like Elon's role in this transition is almost like VP-ish, right? I mean,
yes.
Like in this specific instance, you know, to give the Trump team credit here, they're sort of describing this as a chance conversation with Zelensky, that Zelensky and Trump were talking and Elon was in the room and sure, throw him on the line. Maybe once, that's fine. But like, you know, when Erdogan is talking and Musk is there as well, or when the Argentinian president is coming, you know, the number of times that this is happening suggests that, you know, Elon is going to be playing a bigger and bigger role in foreign policy. And, you know, we're not just talking about budget cuts here, right? Like, I think if Elon Musk was involved in budget decisions, like, that's kind of what happens when you have an industrialist play such a big role, but we're so far from his area of expertise, and we're so far into a territory that is rife with conflict of interests, given kind of Elon's direct business interests in places like Ukraine or Taiwan.
I want to sit on that for a second, Michael. The idea, I was stunned at Trump's victory speech on election night. He sort of like nods towards J.D. Vance and is like, thanks for going on Fox, right. Thanks for going to enemy territory, going to talk to the mainstream media and being my attack dog. But by far, way more oxygen was spent talking about Elon Musk and his beautiful rockets and how amazing we played a little bit of it just now. He's been hiding in plain sight as like a very, very close advisor to Trump. But I honestly feel like the scales are falling from all of our eyes. He is, just like Teddy says, it's almost a shadow vice presidential role, a co-presidential role. He's on the calls. He's doing the bidding. He did the campaign outreach. He's like spent the money on the campaign. He's got the foot soldiers. He's spreading the disinformation. He's launching the rockets. I mean, his fingerprints are everywhere.
Right. And they're sort of Gemini twins, right?
Yes.
They first made a ton of money. Right. They became super famous. They became celebrities, international icons in many respects. I mean, I was in Ukraine at the start of the full-scale invasion around April of 2022, just as the siege of Kyiv was being lifted. Elon Musk was one of two Westerners who was celebrated as a hero because of Starlink.
Right.
And the fact that he flips on a dime about Ukraine and suddenly he's talking about when Khrushchev gave Crimea, back to the Ukrainians, all this stuff, he didn't know anything about this. So the question is, where's he getting this information?
You're talking about, just for people who haven't followed, that Starlink is... He basically gives Starlink tech to the Ukrainians.
And by the way, he said this was not designed for people to kill one another. Yes. And yet, I know for a fact, because I interviewed these Ukrainian soldiers, they were using it on the battlefield before he decided to pull the plug.
He changes his position dramatically.
The coup de main was going to be that they were going to hit the Black Sea Fleet in Crimea, and that's when he yanked it.
And you're saying,
and they've completely
who told him to do that?
Exactly. But what I'm saying to you about his relationship with Trump, I mean, they see eye to eye on so much, right? They want to get involved in politics because politics for Trump, I mean, he has now been gifted legal immunity. All of his problems are going to just melt away. And he has the power now to use this fabulous wealth to make even more of it, right? Trump Towers springing up in parts of the world where, he's on the phone with Elon and, authoritarian dictators saying, let's all make lots of money together.
How can we monetize this? Teddy, in terms of the disinformation piece, which seems critically important, not just here in America, but around the globe, what could go wrong by having Elon Musk in touch with President Erdogan and Putin and Xi Jinping, being a purveyor of disinformation himself, being someone who owns one of the largest most influential social media companies? I mean, there's an interest here that extends beyond just making money, but it's actually who controls the truth. And that's where Elon seems to be sitting squarely in the catbird seat.
Sure. I mean, the Elon's catchphrase of the last 48 hours is "the media is you." He's saying that every 10 minutes now. And essentially what he means by this is that, the information brokers are no longer people that are on the set right now, but it could be, it could be President Zelensky, it could be President Trump. It's like, you can just speak directly, say whatever you want, put it whatever you want on the internet. And look, Elon clearly has a tremendous amount of influence. I almost feel like the money that he spent on politics is honestly not even the most important part right now. And we're just getting started here. It's November of 2024. Like, over the next 4 years, a huge storyline is going to be this disintermediation of truth. And that a lot of